What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well with you. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and I know that you are excited because Dallas Cowboys training camp is just around the corner. We got about 2 weeks to go. That is, it kind of snuck up on us. I'm not going to lie. I know we've been counting down. We've been looking forward to it for a very long time, but now it's really close, and so that's very exciting. We're going to have you covered, obviously, throughout camp, after camp, throughout the season, after the season. We never stop here at Blogging the Boys, so please make sure to subscribe here to our YouTube channel. We have lots of fun stuff in store for you throughout the season, but we are continuing today with our training camp preview, looking at each and every Dallas Cowboys position group by position group to kind of examine what the Cowboys have going on, what we think of the group as a whole, how we view it, how confident we are, what potential roster battles that might be, et cetera, et cetera. And today we are looking at the secondary. Yes, the corners, the safeties as a whole. It just kind of felt easier this way to lump the third level of the defense into one. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. Now, if we look at the Cowboys secondary, we're about to look at every single name. There's a lot, and obviously there's a lot to work with, but I don't really think that there are a lot of questions. If we look at every single name here, obviously there are, some new names, most notably, I think, Deron Bland. But outside of that, this isn't a group that we really clamored for the Cowboys to add towards, right? Yes, you're going to have your standard rookie, your standard UDFAs, because that's just kind of the way the secondary works. You're never going to have no new bodies. It's a position group as a whole where you need a lot of people. And so that's why we wanted to kind of do it all together, like I said. But all told, I think that the Cowboys have a lot to work with here. CJ Goodwin is here. I know that one of you commented in our specialist video that we could have looked at him as a specialist, and I think that's a great point, but he is technically a corner. I don't want to be maddened about this and call him a corner and call LP Ladouceur a tight end, but we really aren't evaluating CJ Goodwin as a corner, to be fair. He is just your kind of special teams ace, and so he's a great addition to the roster in that sense. But you look at it, and I think this is maybe the deepest the corner position has been in some time for the Cowboys, and these are all sorted, by the way, alphabetically, so nobody freak out. But you're talking about Anthony Brown, who I really want to talk about in a second, Trevon Diggs, Kelvin Joseph, Jordan Lewis. Nashawn Wright is a name who I think we're all really rooting for, certainly. And at safety, the Cowboys brought back not just Jayron Kearse, but Malik Hooker as well. Israel Mukuamu entering his second year. I know a lot of people are big fans of Tyler Coyle also, and Donovan Wilson entering a contract year with the Cowboys. So there are a lot of options, a lot of things to kind of figure out, and this season's going to ultimately dictate what the Cowboys want to do from a contract standpoint. Jayron Kearse did sign a 2-year deal, so he's going to be around for a little while. But yeah, let's go ahead and begin then. Let's dive a little bit deeper. So I think that it's worth saying, and I know that this is a sentence that might spook some people, but the Cowboys have some quality starters at corner, and I know that makes people roll their eyes. But I don't think that people give Anthony Brown enough credit. Obviously, Trevon Diggs is Trevon Diggs, had 1 million interceptions last year, and I think by now most people are understanding of and accepting that there is going to be some regression there, just from a volume standpoint, that there are going to be, in all likelihood, fewer interceptions for Trevon Diggs in 2022. That isn't to say that he can't become a better player. He's obviously going to continue to grow and to develop, but just because of the way, things work, right? The way regression works, the way that position works, there will likely be fewer than 11 interceptions for Trevon in 2022. But somebody who doesn't get enough chatter about them, honestly, is Anthony Brown. You see him now wearing number 3. In case you missed it, there were a lot of number changes in this position group over the offseason. Anthony Brown going from 30 to 3. Jordan Lewis has actually now changed numbers twice. He was originally 27, went back to 26. He is now wearing number 2, and Kelvin Joseph is now wearing number 1 after wearing 24 throughout his rookie year. But Anthony Brown, I seriously, I don't think gets enough credit. I think it's because it's kind of hip to hate on Anthony Brown. He's obviously had some bad moments throughout the team, or throughout his history with the team. And so I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that Anthony Brown is amazing, that he is one of the best corners in the NFL. But I think if he is your opposite corner, or your corner opposite of Trevon Diggs, I think you could do a lot worse. And I think that Anthony deserves a little bit more credit, again, than most Cowboys fans tend to give him. So I know PFF is not popular among Cowboys fans when it comes to evaluations of corners because of the way they feel about Trevon Diggs, but I found this to be notable. When you look at all corners in the NFL, the PFF graded last year, and you sort them by coverage grade specifically, Anthony Brown is the 40th best one in the NFL, as you can see, and Trevon Diggs 80th. And so, not necessarily ideal, but still, from a coverage grade standpoint, and again, I know I'm not saying you should worship any one way of evaluating things, but I think they're all interesting, and I think they're all, worth kind of kind of throwing in the pot of discussion, which is what we're doing right now, but PFF evaluates Anthony Brown as a better coverage corner than Trevon Diggs. And you can certainly make an argument about Trevon's play style and whether or not that impacts things like this. But he is a pretty solid cover corner. Again, kind of NFL average. And I don't think that he gets credit for that. Obviously, he is entering, a later part of his career. People forget that Anthony Brown was part of that 2016 draft class that brought not just Dak Prescott, but Zeke Elliott and Jalen Smith, and who could forget Rico Gathers and Malik Collins, Charles Tapper, Darius Jackson, but Anthony Brown was a part of that group, Kayvon Frazier as well, and he has lasted. He has stood the test of time. He's kind of followed the Orlando Scandrick route for the Cowboys, 6th round pick, late round pick, just kind of coming in, finding your spot, holding on, refusing to let go, and I think that he is somebody who we can trust opposite of Trevon Diggs. I know he has had his moments. I know the Thanksgiving Day game is burned in the back of people's minds, but I think that the collective of Trevon Diggs and Anthony Brown with Jordan Lewis as the team starting nickel corner, slot corner, I mean, you could do a lot worse. This is the least amount of anxiety I have felt about the Cowboys starting corners in a very long time. And obviously, I just listed the top 3 right there, but there is some depth to work with, right? We are interested to see what Nahshon Wright becomes in his second season. Obviously, he's somebody who Dan Quinn believed in, but the other big question here is Kelvin Joseph and what is going to happen here with him. I think that it goes without saying that he is the group's biggest question mark, and we're only going to talk about his football here. There's obviously been a lot revolving around Kelvin Joseph over the offseason. And so if he is playing football for the Dallas Cowboys, and we presume that to be the case today at least, I'm putting this together over the weekend here in mid-July, I mean, conceivably he would take some sort of step right in year 2, and if he becomes, I know I mentioned Anthony Brown as the starter opposite of Trevon Diggs, but if Kelvin Joseph can grow and blossom into the player who the Cowboys believed he could be, and obviously there were all the issues in college which led to the transfer and whatnot, but there is no question that there is football talent within him, and if the Cowboys can tap into that, I mean, he really can change this defense. He can really, obviously, provide another legitimate threat opposite of Trevon Diggs if he does evolve to that level. But he is the biggest question mark. Jayron Kearse is another different thing, but I think that, he is the biggest question mark. How Kelvin Joseph plays in 2022 really kind of could send this defense in a totally different direction, one way or the other. Obviously, if he's awesome, this defense now has 2 elite corners in terms of Trevon Diggs and Kelvin Joseph, and if he falters, I mean, he's going to get picked on, right? If he's starting opposite of Trevon Diggs, we know that, teams and quarterbacks are likely going to start to shy away from him on a more weekly basis. And so whoever is opposite of Trevon Diggs has to be legitimate. And if Kelvin Joseph can be, that really changes the conversation in the overall. But that is, that again, I think overall, to use that word again, I feel very, very solid about this team's cornerback depth. In fact, I think it's hard, Kelvin Joseph aside for non-football reasons, it's hard to find a player from the standpoint of players likely to make the team that you don't feel somewhat good about. I think that is not the case when it comes to even linebacker or anywhere along the defensive line, right? There's Tristan Hill at defensive tackle, at defensive end. Maybe you have a question about Dorrance Armstrong at linebacker. It's basically everybody after, Leighton Vander Esch and Jabril Cox, not counting Micah Parsons, obviously. And so in terms of starting corners, again, I feel very good about the Dallas Cowboys defense here in 2022. But let's move to the safeties, and it all starts with Jayron Kearse. Again, returning to the Cowboys this offseason, that was a big win for them in free agency. And I said that Kelvin Joseph was the biggest question mark for the group because we're talking about the secondary as a whole. But I think that so he's the biggest question mark. I'm kind of cheating here and using the same word twice, but whether or not Jayron Kearse can do it again is the question hanging over the safety position. And I think that is so. I think that's a question that a lot of people haven't wanted to ask themselves. If we're being honest with ourselves, right? That's what we do here, right? We sit here, you and me, we get together, we talk our feelings out, we hug it out, and we figure it out. And so I would love more than anything to see Jayron Kearse be better, be even just as good in 2022. But again, when you talk about regression of the mean and things like that, that doesn't necessarily feel likely. That's not to say it's impossible. That's not to say we're hating on Jayron Kearse or anything like that. His career prior to arriving in Dallas a year ago isn't, something that to that, I guess my point is, a year ago, nobody was sitting here thinking that Jayron Kearse was going to turn into the player that he was for the Cowboys. And I think we attribute, the massive chunk of credit to that to Jayron Kearse and his will, his drive, his own, work that he put into that. Obviously, you give a lot of credit to Dan Quinn and the Cowboys defense as a whole. But whether or not he can do it again really kind of sends, just like Kelvin Joseph, this department, this safety department here, in a number of different directions. If he can, then wow, we really do have a safety that the Cowboys can not only depend on, but depend on, multiple years in a row. We've had some magical moments of safety play. Magical is being generous, but we've had some nice moments over the last 15 or so years. People forget that Roy Williams existed, obviously, after Darren Woodson, but obviously it's just kind of been this rotating cast of different player after different player after different player, and it's not really somewhere that the Cowboys have paid a lot of resources to. And so Jayron Kearse comes in and surprises us all and nurtures us all in this sense, and really kind of makes us believe in this position once again last year. And if he can do it again, then man alive, I mean, the Cowboys really have something to sort of get pumped about, and they really have that enforcer. And he's such an interesting player, and I know we didn't include him when we talked about the linebackers, but obviously he plays up front a lot, and so he is this versatile player. He's not this, just kind of true classic safety, whatever, and that's just kind of where the NFL is and how Dan Quinn coaches. But I do think that I think if we prioritized, or if we power ranked, or however you wanted to put it, players on the defense and their level of importance to the Cowboys and them having success in 2022. Obviously, Micah Parsons is number one. DeMarcus Lawrence is number two. But I think you can make a very strong argument that Jayron Kearse having success is maybe number three, even ahead of Trevon Diggs, just because, you have another corner that you can somewhat depend on in Anthony Brown. Again, not to take away from Trevon Diggs, but at the very least, Jayron Kearse is fourth. I mean, and so if he can, again, provide some, not just sustainability, but legitimacy at the safety position, that would be a really, really impressive thing. And obviously that would go a long way towards, the Cowboys secondary being improved again in 2022. Let's move on to our last name that we're going to discuss specifically here, and that is Malik Hooker. And he does represent a lot of potential. He was a late arrival last year, obviously joined the team throughout training camp. And I think we all kind of had our eggs in the Jayron Kearse basket, and we're hoping the team was going to bring him back this offseason, and they did, and that was awesome. But I think we were kind of surprised. I think some people were, at least, that they were able to bring back Malik Hooker. And so, again, Jayron Kearse was the story last year, but I do think that Malik Hooker represents somebody who could maybe not be the Jayron Kearse of this year, but could come in and provide, again, the floor for the safety position is so much higher than it's been, and that's why I'm so much higher on the secondary as a whole. We already talked about the corners, but the floor, Malik Hooker represents that to me. He represents the floor being higher than usual for the Dallas Cowboys safeties, because we've had some names that have been difficult to count on year in and year out. And I mean, we're not even talking about Donovan Wilson here, who's entering a contract year. I mean, the Cowboys have, again, they have a handful of players that they can rely on, which hasn't necessarily been the case over the last few years. So let's take a look at this roster again as a whole. This is all of the secondary players on the Dallas Cowboys roster at the moment. Obviously, Marquise Bell is somebody who they believe in as well, bringing in as an undrafted free agent, paid a lot of money to in that space. And so that's another candidate. I think that the biggest, if you're looking for a roster battle to kind of come out of here, somewhere to maybe watch throughout training camp, is at safety, because it's Marquise Bell versus Israel Mukuamu. And Israel Mukuamu was somebody, again, everybody believed in last year, right? They flipped him over there. He's got this athletic profile that can really work. And so a year's a long time, and we're a year removed from that. I mean, you think about a year ago this time, people were so hyped about Simi Fehoko and Israel Mukuamu, and now those kind of hype moments belong to TJ Vasher and here in Marquise Bell. And so at corner, I mean, again, you got Anthony Brown, Trevon Diggs, CJ Goodwin, again, sort of counts here, but doesn't. Kelvin Joseph, Jordan Lewis. I mean, very, very high floor. Deron Bland, we'll see if he does make the team. That's a little bit of a question mark right there as well. At safety, Jayron Kearse, Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, those three, money in the bank. And then is it Marquise Bell? Is it Israel Mukuamu? Can the Cowboys figure something else out? But all told, I feel a lot more confident in the state of the secondary on the Dallas Cowboys than I have in a very long time, at least here in mid-July. But that is our discussion here for our training camp preview on the Dallas Cowboys secondary. Like I said, we've been going from position to position. We cheated a little bit here. We put them together, but hey, they kind of belong together. It's this whole, we did that with the offensive line too, whatever. But anyway, up next, tight ends. We wanted to wait because didn't know what was going to happen with Dalton Schultz. Was he going to get the big-time deal? Was he going to play on the tag? Now we know he's going to play on the tag. We talked about that here on the channel as well. So tight ends coming your way. giveaway early in the week. But for now, we're about to get out of here. So please make sure to subscribe here to the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our wonderful videos. We have videos coming out all the time. We're going to have even more videos once training camp starts. We're going to be back to doing live things. Going to have live weekly roundtables on Tuesdays. Going to have live post-game reactions and maybe something else. We're having some meetings. We're figuring some stuff out. You know what I mean? My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. If you want to email me, you can at RJ.Ochoa@SBNation.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you next time.